and we are having a high-tech support, which are essential to bring their life to their ideas to in the life. In a short span of 5 years, it has incubated 180 startups and has committed about 6 crore of funds and support to the different startups. And IIT Mandi Catalyst has also won 70 awards and have generated a lot of employment for more than 500 individuals. Catalyst currently hosts 10 funding schemes. I'll be listing out some of the funding schemes later from both the central as well as the state government. And about the iHub Foundation, it's a technology innovation hub focusing on the human-computer interactions. And this is started under the India's National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical System. And the iHub is planned to make India a leader in human-computer interaction research in the world. The iHub is a Section 8 company that has been created with a funding of about 110 crores through the Science and Engineering Research Board, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. And I'm also happy to inform you all that the IIT Mandi Catalyst is working towards building the Startup Valley in Mandi. Catalyst is supporting startups through prototype grants such as the Nidhi Prayas, Type 2.0, Seed Fund from Nidhi, which is the Nidhi Seed Support Scheme, and also the Himachal Pradesh state government scheme, this HIM Startup Yojana. I'm also happy to share that the IIT Mandi iHub and HCI Foundation is supporting Catalyst incubated startups, working especially in the area of human-computer interaction with prototype grant, the CPS Prayas, the Seed Support Scheme, and also the Entrepreneur in Residence program. We are looking to make the IIT Mandi a global innovation leader in the area of HCI and bring a paradigm shift in HCI technologies. IIT Mandi Catalyst is also launching the accelerator program in the area of human-computer interaction with the support from IIT Mandi iHub and HCI Foundation. I'm also happy to share that in this year, 2021, Catalyst is chosen by DST to support 10 EIRs, which are the Entrepreneur in Residence, through the Nidhi EIR scheme for each year for the next 5 years. Another big validation of our work is received from Startup India, as Catalyst is chosen by Startup India to act as an implementation partner for Startup India Seed Fund. Under this fund, we'll be providing financial support to 35 additional startups through prototype grants and seed fund. IIT Mandi Catalyst is increasing its capacity to support more and more startups. And in this year, 2021 itself, till now, 72 startups have joined our exploration batches. We'll be going to provide incubation support to even more startups which are selected through the grant challenges. And I'd also like to inform you that in this first edition of Himalayan Startup Trek, in partnership with this IIT Mandi iHub and HCA Foundation, we have conducted the HST Startup Grant Challenge, which is the first time which is happening here. This is to invite innovative minds to create solutions in the area of HCA and also in the area of Built for Himalayas and Environment and Sustainability. These were the three themes. We have received around 300 applications, and after 10 days of the pitching sessions, we'll be announcing the 3 winners in each category in this HST event. The cash prizes for each category includes a first prize of 1 lakh rupees, second prize of about 60,000, and the third prize of about 40,000. Overall, we are looking forward to support more and more startup through our technical capabilities, faculty mentors, and lab facilities. We'll be encouraging more students to become entrepreneurs and to transform more innovations into commercial products. With these few words, I welcome you all to this 5th edition of HST, and we look forward to the sessions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Venkat, for welcoming all our guests. During the inaugural session, we are going to have our keynote speaker, Mr. Ashutosh Garg, to give his keynote speech. And then we will be fortunate to have presence of Dr. Ajay Garg from Senior Director, MIT, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. We will be having the key messages from Director of Industries, Sri Rajesh Prajapati, and our Honorable Chief Minister, Sri Jairam Thakur. We will be fortunate to have the presence of Sri Amitabh Kant, the Chief Executive Officer of Niti Aayog, in the coming session. So now, going forward with the program, we are fortunate to have today the presence of a celebrated entrepreneur, Mr. Astos Garg, who has been making an entrepreneurial journey from a long time. He is having 6,000 plus research citation, more than 50 patents, more than 35 peer-reviewed research publication, and he's having his outstanding PhD thesis from University of Illinois for his PhD thesis in machine learning. He has been a Bachelor of Technology from IIT Delhi. It is fair to say that Mr. Asos is one of the world's expert in machine learning. He's the co-founder and CEO of Eightfold AI and co-author of the book What's Next for You: The Eightfold Path to Transforming the Way We Hire and Manage Talent. Eightfold AI is industry's first talent intelligence platform built for enterprises to address talent acquisition and management in a holistic fashion. He has been also co-founder of Bloomreach, and he has been worked with industry giants Google and IBM as a research scientist. It's our pleasure to have you here, sir. Now I would like to invite you for your keynote address.
Thank you, Saurabh. It's a pleasure and honor to be here today, especially as an IITian, getting an opportunity to come and address the fellow IITians is always exciting. So thank you for this opportunity, and congratulations to all the work that IIT Mandi Catalyst is doing to enable more entrepreneurship in India. So super excited about that. Let me just share my screen. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So one of the topic of today's conversation is human-computer interaction, right? Which is as pertinent to today what we are doing as anything can ever be. I'm sure all of you are thinking about AI, which is nothing else but an ultimate human scaler. So for next 45 minutes to hour, what I will do is first walk you through my journey, what we are doing at Eightfold, and then what are the learnings coming out of that. Like many of you, I grew up in a small town in India, in Uttarakhand actually. So super excited to be now talking to something in Himachal. And to be honest, at that time, never imagined that I will even get into IIT. It's been a journey. But during that journey, both in India and in the US, realized how important employment is for all of us. We are here today because either our family had a good employment or they enabled something for us. And having the right employment can change people's life. So 5 years back, as I was thinking about what to do next for my own career, as I looked at a number of things, realized that if I can have an impact on employment, that would be my way of positively impacting our society. And to enable that, can I learn from each and every professional who resides on this planet? So today at Eightfold, we are analyzing the data of more than 1 billion people. So with that, we started the company with the mission of enabling the right career for everyone in the world. 5 years in, thankfully, we have been backed by some of the prominent investors in Silicon Valley. They have raised around $400 million of financing so far. And really what we have done is build a single platform for all talent for enterprises. What that means is that a large enterprise like American Express of the world, either when they're thinking of hiring people or they're thinking of growing their own talent, upskilling, reskilling their workforce, they use Eightfold to see who's the right person for the job. So what made that all happen? We are living in interesting times. And COVID has further accelerated many of the things in our society. So first of all, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials in 3 years from now. 3 out of every 4% will be millennial. 70% of the companies today are going through digital transformation. That kind of a shift in industry happens once in a lifetime, right? Kind of a thing. And we are fortunate to be living in those times. But even with that, there are less than 20% of women in technology sector. I mean, this is reflected in whether you are working in Silicon Valley, whether you're working in Bangalore. We just don't have enough women causing all kind of diversity challenges, right? And to top it all, what's interesting is that do you realize that in 5 years from now, whatever you know today will be half as valuable as it is today? And most likely 10 years from now, whatever you learn, at the face of it will be outdated. So as these things are going on, we realize that actually the existing way of doing things is not going to work. What you see over here on the right side is the first resume ever written by Leonardo da Vinci, where he describes himself as a defense contractor. And for those of you who may not know, he's the one who painted Mona Lisa. Probably a genius, the biggest genius who ever lived on this planet. But he himself failed to represent on one piece of paper his genius. And as some of you may go into the workforce over the next few years, and you will prepare a one-page resume, some recruiter somewhere will look at it and will do the keyword match with the job description to see whether you're a good match for that or not. Most of these times, the job description you look at, whether it is in a newspaper or on a website, are extremely poorly written. They don't really reflect what an enterprise is looking for. And as a result, this leads to poor matching, poor outcomes. So most likely, if you have ever applied for a job and not heard back, the reason is not because you're not good, but because no one even looked at it, or the way they looked at your resume was broken. And being that today, most of the people in the audience are entrepreneurs, these are just examples of key insights that led to start of Eightfold. That the basic concept of resume and job description is broken. But on the other hand, what has happened is that because of over last 10 years, migration to cloud, enormous amount of data about people is available. Guess what? There are less than 8 billion people on this planet. Less than 2 billion knowledge workers. A number of these people are working in enterprises. Each person has interviewed with multiple companies. And all the interview outcome data is sitting in the enterprises. So what Eightfold does is by virtue of working with large enterprises, is able to unlock all that data. Understand who are the different people that an organization has interviewed over time, who has performed well, who has not. In addition to that, what we are able to do is crawl the web to learn about each and every person, each and every job, combine the two, and that gives Eightfold the deepest understanding of every role in the world, every individual in the world, every skill, and what drives outcomes. And then that combined with the latest advances in AI technology around RNNs and DNNs, what we are able to do is for each person predict what's next for them. So, for example, many of you who may have gone and done your undergrad in one department, does that mean you can learn coding quickly or not? So what system does is for each person looks at their career trajectory, what education they have had till date, what experiences they have had, and uses that to predict what skills this person can learn quickly. Additionally, what system does is for each role out there, tries to understand who are the people who are successful in this role, uses that to model each and every job in the world. And once we have that, it matches the two, the individual with the job, to provide the best fit. On the basis of technology, we have built a platform that works with some of the largest enterprises. They're all internal systems and provide an end-to-end solution, whether as an employee of a large enterprise, you are looking for career growth within the company, as a candidate, you're applying for a job, or as a contractor, either you're applying for a job or working in a company. And that has resulted in a company with a global footprint. Today, we have customers using us in 110 countries across 15 plus languages. Some of the brand names that are using us are companies like American Express, which you might know, Capital One, Tata in India, AirAsia in Malaysia, LG out of Korea, a mining company out of Brazil, e-commerce company out of Argentina, and so on. And not just that, what we are able to do is further our mission. Today, Eightfold is also working with Department of Labor in the US to help people as they transition out of the armed forces into civilian life, to help them find the right job. It is working to enable more career opportunities for Black Americans through 110. Economic goals around working with the state of New York and Indiana, so that anytime someone is filing for unemployment benefit, they are able to use Eightfold to discover alternate job opportunities in the state, and so on. So now many of you might be thinking, this all makes sense. I mean, and my goal over here is not to do a sales pitch, but this gives you a feel for where we are as a company. In summary, around 400 people today in the organization. We are growing from 200 people in the beginning of the year to 600 people this year. $400 million plus of funding, some of the largest enterprises in the world as our customers. Does that sound exciting? Probably. But where did it all begin? Like all of you, I grew up in a very small town, well, relatively speaking, Haldwani. That is where I had all my education. And was fortunate to get into IIT Delhi, where I pursued electrical engineering. After spending a year in Bangalore, came to US, pursued my master's and PhD in AI. After that, joined IBM Research, where I worked on modeling people. And that led me to joining Google in 2004. And I stayed there till 2008. Followed by starting a company, Bloomreach, in the e-commerce personalization space. That company today has 700 employees, almost $1 billion in valuation, $250 million of funding with some of the top investors and in 2016, they have nominees to start eightfold, which has done quite well. So, how has this journey been so far? That's what I thought I will share with all of you. And as part of that, the very first thing people ask me, Ashu, why did you leave Google to do a startup? And I always wonder, like, what's the right answer for that, right? Is there a very fancy reason I did it? What is behind that? So maybe I will start by sharing a speech by ex-president of US, John F. Kennedy, that he gave at Rice University, where he talked about we are going to prepare to go to the moon. So let me just play that.
Why some say the moon? I choose this as our goal. And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago? Why the Atlantic? Why did Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon and just decay and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of abilities and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are willing to postpone, one the furthest outpost on the old frontier of the West will be the furthest outpost to the frontier of science and space. Houston.
And that's the reason to do a startup. It's not about money. It's not about the glorious life. It's not about the fame. Because as an entrepreneur, we do it so that we can change the world. So that we can pursue our dreams. We can shape the world in a way so that we will leave it as a much better place for future generations. And in this journey, as all of you are embarking on, I thought I will share some of the learnings that I've had. And by no means, this is neither the comprehensive list. It may not be the most important one, but next 7, 8 things that I will share with you, my suggestion is keep that in perspective with whatever you are doing next. Very first thing, you are among the very few fortunate ones in the world who got an opportunity to get into IIT. IIT matters. I don't know if you all realize, today I would say that it's far easier to be a founder of a unicorn than to be able to get a good rank in IIT. And many of you have done that. And it's just not getting into IIT. The preparation that you did to get into IIT, that was massive. If I had known as I was preparing for IIT that you need to be among the few hundred people in the entire country, I wouldn't even have tried. But what got us in was that passion that we'll do it. We'll work hard, we'll make it happen. And the startup life is going to be like that. Anytime you're trying to do something, I'm sure you will see that 50 other companies are trying to do the same thing. There are incumbents, large companies which are trying to do the same thing. What I say is being a little bit ignorant, being a little bit foolish actually helps. Second, the competition that you run face on a daily basis at IIT, in your academics, is actually, it's tough. My apologies to every professor on the call or every faculty member, but you do make a life of students really, really tough. But at the same time, as they say, जितना समय को तपाओगे उतना खरा होगा. And all these things, if you keep those experiences with you as you're doing a startup, you will be super successful. You have already gone through the preparation of that competition, competing daily with your peer group. Is something that will help you succeed. But the third one I would say is, as part of that, cherish these days, this experience that you're having. Because on one hand, it has prepared you, you have competed. The group of folks that you are studying with on a daily basis, this is probably the smartest group of folks that you will ever get to work with as a group in your life. I don't know of any company in the world which can say that their entire talent base is as good as the student population of any IIT. So you're already on a great path. The second one, and I think this is, I didn't know about this concept when I started my first company. I wish I had known about it, or much better. But then I learned about it as I reflected on my journey and leveraged it in the second time. Any guesses on how many lines of code we had written before we went and raised the funding for Eightfold? Actually, 0. Did we have a prototype product? No. Did we have screenshots? No. Did we have mocks? No. So people always ask me, oh, so are you saying that, Ashu, you went and raised $6 million from some of the top ventures in the Silicon Valley just on a slide deck? Well, while at the face of it, that may sound true, the reality is, no, it was not with a slide deck. It was by perfecting the pitch. And by pitch, I don't mean the pitch that you give to the investors. It is a pitch of your idea that a customer gets excited about and wants to buy. Some of you may have heard this concept of product market fit. Build a product, try to get to product market fit. The challenge with that is that once you build a product, one is you will end up spending a few years building that product. And then you go to a customer and say that, here's my product. And if they don't buy it, you have no idea they're not buying it because they don't like your product. Or your product was just not well made or doesn't serve their need. On the other hand, so as an example, right? You call someone and say that, actually, I can build an electric car that can sell in India for 5 lakh rupees. That will have a range of 100 kilometers. Would you be interested in buying it? I don't have a car ready right now, but give me 5 lakh rupees. I will give the car next year. And if I'm not able to deal with the car next year to you, I will give you 6 lakh rupees back. And if you find few people willing to write a check for that, that means you have a pitch market fit. And as a technologist, I have no doubt you all of you can go and build that. But if people say that, nah, I'm fine with my petrol car, it works fine, or diesel car, it works fine, or I don't have reliable electricity over here, so I'm not interested in this thing, then there's no point in wasting time next 2 years building that product. It just won't work. So really think about how can you verify your pitch. So what I did as part of Eightfold, when we were starting, we called 50 plus of some of the largest enterprises in the US, discussed our idea, and in some cases got their verbal commitment that they would be willing to buy our product once it is ready. And where my IT brand name helped me is when I went to the investors, they were comfortable that, yeah, Ashutosh can build it. Building is not going to be hard. But now we have a validation coming from 50 customers. So let's just put our money behind this thing. So spend time thinking about what is your pitch, talk to people, and don't worry about someone stealing your idea. It's not the idea that will matter, it's then how are you going to execute on it, right? This is a very interesting one. And this is especially relevant as a startup founder. I mean, there are all these things, it's very lonely at the top, all those things, right? But what makes a startup especially hard is, other than you, no one is facing all these issues, challenges. So there is no one out there who you can brainstorm things with. If I'm having an issue with my board, I can't go and talk to my team. If I'm having an issue with my executive, I can't go and talk to my board. I can't go and talk to one executive about another executive in the company. If I'm paranoid about my market, I can't discuss with anyone. You may have a co-founder, but what if you're having issues with your co-founder? And I don't mean lonely in terms of emotion. You are making all these decisions by yourself. And as you're making all these decisions, right? At times you would wonder if there was someone who could have helped me brainstorm, right? So what I say is that have few friends, and not just your casual friends, but the people who really understand what you are doing. You keep them up to date with your business in confidence so that they can give you impassionate feedback on what you are thinking, how you are approaching the problems. I'll just give you just one example, which you may find funny. Is tomorrow morning, there is a talk by Arvind Jain. Now, as I was preparing for this one, now who do I discuss my presentation with? So literally today morning, as I saw that Arvind is one of the speakers, I called him, and he happens to be a good friend of mine. I'm like, Arvind, I'm giving this talk. Can you help me think through it? So, and there is no substitute for that. So my suggestion to all of you will be spend some time, get some friends, and these need not be your college buddies, but these are the people who are in a similar shoes. And what you're fortunate about is, as part of this fest, you are meeting hundreds of other founders, right? Other entrepreneurs. Build relationship with them, discuss with them. These will become your best advisors as you do your company. You are accountable. Sounds obvious, right? But what does that mean? The only person that is responsible, accountable for the success or failure of the company is you. Don't blame it on your investors. Don't blame it on your market. Don't blame it on the competition. Don't blame it on customers. Don't blame it on your co-founder, and don't blame it on your team. There's only one person who is accountable, and that is you. And while that sounds simple, probably obvious, we don't realize it and we don't put it in action. Around 4 years back, one day I came home and I was a little bit unhappy, thinking, you know what, I'm not able to do this thing. I'm just not able to convince my product person to execute on an idea. Or why is this other engineer doing something? And yeah, I've told them 10 times, I've forced them, but they're just not following it, right? And that is when it dawned on me. Ashutosh, buck stops at you. You are accountable. Don't give an excuse that a product person is not doing it. Really, the issue is that you are not able to convince that product person. So don't hide behind what this other person is doing or not doing, right? Either convince him or let them go. Otherwise, this is your decision what that person is doing. And I would say that was probably one of the biggest aha moments in my career as an entrepreneur in this journey. And since then, whatever decisions I've taken, I take accountability of that. And any decision that I have not taken, I also take accountability of that. And I'm not able to convince someone, I take accountability of that. And that has just made life so much simpler. Around 3 years back, there was some coach, he did a psychological test on me, came back with assessment. I said that, Ashu, you just don't fit the profile of an entrepreneur. I was like, Ravi, what are you talking about? He's like, no, Ashu. Based on your psychological profile, you are a very risk-averse person. You can't be an entrepreneur. Of course, my first reaction was that, yeah, this guy does not know what he's saying, or maybe that profile is wrong. Who cares? But then as I reflected on what he said and looked at my actions, what I realized is that what I have been doing is trying to mitigate risk at every stage. And to explain to you what all it means, right? Why have we raised 400 million? Not because we needed this money. We raised 400 million because I don't want to ever run out of money. So when COVID happened last year in March, right, as most of the world was shutting down, the very first thing I did was just go raise money. And sometimes many people will say that, no, don't do that. Worry about dilution. Do you want to give up so much of your company to raise money and everything, right? Well, startups are full of risk. There's a market risk, there's a product risk, there's a team risk, there's execution risk, timing risk, competition risk, incumbent risk. Why take more risk? Instead, if we can proactively work towards mitigating each risk, it will just get easier. So anytime you can mitigate the risk, do that. This is an interesting one. Get used to know. As you go pitch to your investors, many of them will say, no, your idea does not make sense. You go pitch to a prospective employee, no, I'm not interested. You go to a customer, no, I don't want to buy your product. You will hear no so many times. And as a result, there will be times when you will start questioning yourself. Am I doing the right thing? So just get used to it. Because if what you're doing is obvious, then probably it's not even worth doing it. The reason why you succeed is because anytime someone says no to you, on one hand, it feels bad. On the other hand, I feel good about it. That means I have less competition from this person, or that's why I know that why other people have not done it and why I should do it. My suggestion is that anytime that happens, treat that as a challenge that I need to prove to this world that I can do it, or this is the right thing. So just don't take no as an answer. Get used to it and then work towards it, right? What matters most in a startup? We always say, right, product market fit. So the most obvious thing we think about is product matters. I don't know. I'm assuming some of you might know of this book, Erodo, Physics Problems. So as I was in Haldwani preparing for IIT, someone gave me that book. And I just fall in love with that book. What was exciting is that there were all these problems. There were these answers at the back of the book, but there was no solution. And you didn't even know how to find the solution, right? So in my town, there were not that many people I could go to who could help me come up with a solution. So what do you do? Doing preparation, effectively what we learned is that here's a problem, here's an answer. Now let me work towards a solution that will give me that answer. So solution by itself was immaterial. Right? It was a path to get to that answer. So whatever product you are building, don't fall in love with your product. Your product does not matter. What matters is what is the problem you're solving. And if your product is solving that problem, amazing, awesome, you have a company. If your product is not solving that problem, go find another product. Make changes to your product. Because market is the most important thing. If there's a market, find the people who can build something that will work for that market. And I would say one of the biggest mistakes most entrepreneurs make is they just end up falling too much in love with their own product. When a customer says that I'm not interested in your product, just try to understand why that is the case. Customer is smart. They know what they need. They really don't care about your product. They care about their problem, and they want an answer. So be comfortable with that change. Because things won't go as planned. In fact, especially in the early years, I'm in many of business schools, what they talk about business plan. But what may come as a surprise is that most good investors will never ask you for a business plan. All these business plans are useless. If someone says, Rashu, what is your plan for next 5 years? Can you come up with a financial projection? At some level, the answer is, sure, what projection do you want me to present to you, right? It's just a Excel spreadsheet exercise. I can throw in some numbers. And the reason why this is important is, again, similar to falling in love with a product, we end up falling in love with our plan. It's the planning, it's the exercise that you go through, the thought process you put behind that is more important. Whether you have a goal to hit a certain number this year, or certain number of customers, certain number of user base, it's less important whether you hit that number, you beat that number, you fall behind. What is more important is, has that established that your company will survive, succeed, grow over time. And finally, startups are tough. They're painful, they're frustrating, they're tiring. Most of them don't go anywhere. So then, you decided to do one because you are passionate. But if you were to ask me today, right, why do a startup? And that brings me to one of my favorite speeches of all times. The Man in Arena by, again, ex-US President Theodore Roosevelt.
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who have the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Yes, it is tiring, it is frustrating, but the fact that you're doing it, my huge congratulations to all of you just for that. Because from my experience of over last 12, 14 years of doing startups, there's no better thing. You are a true engineer. You are building something. You are getting something out of nothing. You are leaving a mark on this planet. So thank you. Super excited to be here. Any questions? Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Astos, for sharing your incredible journey from city of Haldwani to USA, setting up a successful startup. I hope that the startups and the students of IIT Mandi must have found it very inspiring and motivating to look into your journey. Astos, I had a question that how did you zero in on the idea of Eightfold AI?
So the interesting story, I left my previous enterprise to start something in healthcare space because the mission that I was after is how can I help people? And today what happens is that most of the time, the primary buyer of healthcare benefits is the HR department of large enterprises. So I started talking to various HR organizations at companies like Google, Facebook, Adobe, and so on. And what they kept coming back to me was, but my problem is talent. And to my point that don't fall in love with your product, my goal was to help people. So then once I connected the dots that employment is the problem to go after, it became obvious that this is what I should be doing.
That's great. That's great. And so, sir, you have shared some of the things to be keep in mind for entrepreneurs while making their journey. Wants to know more on the what do you think? What are the critical success factors for an entrepreneur to make it successful?